Does anyone know how long it takes paper mache to dry?
3 hours longer than it took Duncan to think up this assignment.
I think he's really gonna appreciate.
Hi, this is Dan Harmon.
Expanding our evolutionary chart.
Megan Gans.
Yvette Nicole Brown.
And Joe Russo.
Still think that man is going to evolve into woman, not a
So this is the famous bottle episode.
Yeah, this is it's probably my favorite of the whole season. It's really that's the most frequent question I get. What's your favorite episode? But our show has so many different kinds of episodes. It's like asking what's your favorite book, movie, or comic book.
The local shelter is having a puppy parade this afternoon.
If you put a gun to my head, I'd want this episode to represent the show.
Oh, why is that?
Well, because there's not a lot of pop culture referencing. There's a timelessness to it. Therefore, it's all the characters. It's demonstrating an ability that is extreme in the writing department, while not doing so through any overtly clever techniques. It's minimalist, and so it's more shameful to our competitors.
Yeah, you'd use the metaphor of an elephant's trunk showing it that it can pick up a house key. When we started writing this episode, just showing that we could keep them all in a room and have almost nothing happen and still write a really good show.
You
And this is Megan's first episode on the show as a writer.
And her first commentary
First DVD commentary, too. Yeah.
Or Blu-ray.
So this will be the bottle episode of commentaries that I'm about to give.
Right.
Is this coming up the first Alison Brie scream?
Yeah, this is the scream that she did, which we made her scream a bunch over and over.
Varying degrees of volume.
Freakouts.
Somebody asked on Twitter that this scream is the first time we see Annie freak out in response to something trivial. Is that part of a larger thing, or some question about this? I wasn't really aware that was the case. To me, Annie is high-strung by definition. Maybe I'm thinking more season 1.
That's a real freak out though. Over something very.
We had to make a reason for them to stay in the room,
right?
And we didn't want it to be the door's locked, or there's or a broom falls in front of the door handle, or they get snowed in. Those are the bottle episodes of the 80s that we're familiar with, people getting snowed in and things like that. We wanted it to be grounded. We wanted the reason they're locked in the bottle to be organic, emotional, which is more effective. It doesn't force you to sit there and go, well, why can't you just unlock the door, pull the fire alarm? If you care about the people, then that's why you're staying. The term bottle episode, if I'm not mistaken, comes from the original Star Trek series. The crew invented that term for episodes that never left the bridge.
10 minutes ago.
Can I say what I love about when Joe Russo directs? You want to know? It's a lot of things that I love when you direct. But you always let me stay wherever I want to stay. Like, as a rule, I don't like to move around a lot. Well, so like if I'm already sitting, he lets me sit. If I'm standing, he'll let me hide in a corner. Like, if you watch the episode, there's like shots I'm not even in because I'm like hidden in a corner somewhere.
Well, the greatest thing about this episode, directing-wise, is that it operates so much like a play. Like writing it, it was a really interesting episode to be my first episode that I wrote because it very much was like a play. There weren't scene breaks. We weren't watching two characters and then flashing over to two other characters in a different part of campus. So everyone was available to me to write dialogue. Like at any point, I could have anyone react to anything. And I was really amazed. Like it was the first time I was on set too, and I was really amazed at how you guys actors rose to the challenge of needing to memorize the entire act instead of just one scene. Because we would run through the whole thing on pointing the cameras one way, and then have to run through it all the other way. So it really was like. It just felt like it. I don't know if you felt this too. It sort of built like there was this energy about, and we were in that one room for 5 days, and you guys had to wear the same clothes every day.
Yes, and you were always so sweet when you would come in with suggestions. Megan would come in and go, "Hey guys, sorry, could you? Is it possible if we could?" It was really, really sweet the way you came in every time you had a little.
Well, that's
something.
like a testament to Joe, really, because I had never, like I said, never been on set before, and I kept going up to Joe at the beginning and saying, "Oh, actually, could I get them?" And he just said, "Go tell,
Yeah,
go
yeah.
tell the actors.
You said
like,
go tell, and she would come in and tell us herself.
But that's Joe's passive-aggressive technique. Sometimes that's what he's doing when he's actually respecting you. Sometimes he's doing that exactly to shut you down. Like, go give him a line read. 'Cause I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Actually, Megan is very sweet and respectful. And deserves the opportunity to talk directly to the actor.
Is it a privilege? I don't know.
I figured you guys would get along. Joe, you shot this in 4 days, didn't you?
Yeah, we shot this in 4 days to save an extra day, and then just talk about what you were talking about earlier. It is sort of like Community does off Broadway. It's a very contained environment. These were really extended scenes. We would do long chunks of these scenes, so the actors would have to memorize 5, 6, 7 pages of dialogue. So it really is, in a lot of ways, similar to executing a play. And what is great about it, too, is that just from a camera standpoint, the cold open is shot in a traditional way, where the camera is locked on a dolly. It's a very traditional sort of execution of one of our cold opens. Then you'll notice when we come back from the credits, we started going handheld, and then the camera work gets more erratic as the episode goes, just sort of trying to mirror the emotional state of the study group. But it's great when you do contained episodes sometimes because it allows you to make real slight adjustments like that that are easier for the crew to track, for the actors to track, for the cameramen to track, because we could execute this episode in continuity. Whereas if you're trying to do that stuff and you're jumping around every other day, it becomes much more difficult for the crew and the cameramen even to get a feel for what it is that they're doing.
Yeah, we did shoot this chronologically too.
Yeah, we did. That was different for us as well.
Which allowed you guys also to just track your arcs.
Right, because this was, I mean, everybody has some sort of blow up at some point in this, or some type of, breakdown or whatever.
Yeah, the breaking of this episode basically went where we just had to, it was like sort of a 12 Angry Men. You just slowly roll every character into the madness of it. And the point when I really started to love it was when we decided that Britta was the first one that they would all automatically turn on and just assume, and that her basically having to dump her bag, that now then she feels that everyone else owes her because she was pointed out and she proved her innocence, so everyone else owes her. That when we started breaking that and I realized that that's how we would slowly do it, I just fell in love with the idea of this episode. I thought it was going to be so fun to roll everybody in.
Yeah. How much thought went into what was in the purses that got dumped? Because I remember there was a careful placing of everything that was in Gillian or Britta's purse.
Yeah, that actually was like a lot of the girls on the writing, the women on the writing staff were talking about, just like the differences between women's purses and like the contents and how that shows. And one of the girls was talking about Carrie Dornetto like chews on toothpicks a lot, and so she would have used toothpicks and things in her purse. and we were just talking about like gross things like Q-tips and things that you would never put. And that Britta, and there's a pair of panties in there, which I love when she's grabbing and saying the machine, and she's got the
panties in her hand.
But I mean, especially like the condoms, obviously that was like thought out. But our prop department really was amazing on this episode. Just having, I mean, I remember that in your bag, when your bag gets dumped out, there's like little toys that are clearly for your kids.
Right, because I have my boys.
Stuff. Yeah, it was great.
We missed that great line. One of my favorite lines. I'm assuming that you wrote that. I'll make your ass sense.
Oh no, I think
is that Harmon?
Dan.
Oh gosh.
Well, I think I wrote, because what happened was I wrote some stuff and then that runs that went on long and Dan cut them down, and then other ones I think I wrote I'm your age or something about that, and then Dan.
Time is linear. The fans love that ass sense line.
Yeah, it was great. That was a fun episode. I don't know what you feel like, Dan, doing the rewrites, but I had so much fun writing the dialogue just because it was like an open sandbox for joke writing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's also, and especially my kind of joke writing, because I'm not as funny as, a 30 Rock writer in terms of like, I didn't study comedy for most of my writing life. I was more story and character. So I love dialogue-based comedy where this person says this and then this person says this, and it's funny because of who they are, which is more Cheers than One Day at a Time. That's why I relished this. It's funny because it's like when you're a kid, your parents you get caught playing with matches in the backyard, so they tell you to go to your room, and if you're like me, you're like, that's my punishment, going to my room. So this is like on the heels of our first 6 being like hugely over budget, and the Sony execs coming to me and going, you're way over budget, which I knew we would be because of zombies and spaceships and stuff. And they go, you got to figure out ways to get that budget down. And I'm thinking in my head, like, yeah, no shit. Like that's when the good stuff's gonna happen. Dungeons and Dragons, this episode, the hospital episode, even the conspiracy theories. Like you go into this string of weird, awesome, grounded episodes. You throttle down and do like this weird stuff. It's like the Blue Man Group comes out and they, you do a big explosive opener, but then they start doing weird crap with their mouths and putting tubes in people's noses and stuff. So this is the beginning of that. And
it's all really, I mean, we were talking about it earlier when we were talking about 201. It's very mathematical. You have X amount of minutes in an episode, and you can either service concept or character, or it's difficult to service all at the same time. So
you pick your poison.
Pick your poison. When the concept goes away, sometimes it makes it very easy to just deal with the characters. And the other thing I'll say about this episode, too, is that Dan was saying it's his favorite of the year. I think in a lot of ways it's mine as well, because it shows how strong you guys are as a cast. It's a great episode in terms of, people understood that you guys are executing this stuff in, I said earlier, in like 6, 7, 8 minute chunks. So, this is you guys all responding and behaving in a 7-minute scene. Then we would come in and give direction. But a lot of it is based on your instincts, and a lot of it is based on, the way that you guys relate to one another, and the, sort of shorthand that you guys have as a cast. It's a really good example of how strong you guys are across the board.
I will say that I think as a cast, we found our groove by this episode. Like, I trust all of those people. And people ask often about how we deal with ad libs and stuff on stage, and I always say, whenever there's like some room, you kind of can feel now whose ad lib should go there. Like, we know this is something that Donald should do, or that you can just feel it, and it's kind of almost subconscious now how we leave space for each other to do what we do.
Yeah,
and
that whole scene where they take off Chevy's cast and the smell, none of that is in the script. I mean, Donald's reaction and you guys making, and it's one of my favorite parts just because it just seemed like it just came out of such a natural place.
I think it comes from trust. Like, we all love each other. I really love these people, and we have a really great time playing with each other. And I think that this episode, because there was nothing else to take our attention away, we had to completely depend on each other, and we did. And I think, the writing and the directing and everything was just great. And I love this episode.
This is one of my favorite jokes coming up with the pregnancy test. Chris McKenna came up with the name for this pregnancy test, Girl, which is one of the best things.
I just love that Shirley would buy the one that's,
Well, that's what's great about Shirley is, like, Shirley's neither, she's not like all into the black thing or the white thing.
Right.
She's into whatever is being handed to her.
Exactly.
Like if SpongeBob's on in the morning, Shirley's gonna realize it's a great show.
Right.
If Showtime magazine says The Big C is a good show, then she knows it's a good show. Like, and there's something that's like Homer Simpson, like the abandon that you get. So sometimes you don't want to be jaded and cynical and resistant to everything. Sometimes you do just want to think that America's on top and that houses are full of nice people and the government's not lying and that SpongeBob's exactly what you should be watching and she just sort of goes with
the flow,
And then I think underneath there's this grimness of. I mean, that's what I want. I guess I'm talking this way because we're exploring season 3. She's into forensic files. She's into murder shows. She's into because where do you offset all that stuff?
All the sweetness.
But I think you feel that in these scenes. It's like her rage is real.
Yeah, she's very presentational too, and I think the idea that her carefully constructed house of cards just fell down. People know she's having sex. She's got this pregnancy test. Like, she's exposed in a way that Shirley would hate.
Yeah. There's something important about the relationship between Joel's character and Yvette's character, Shirley's character. Yvette's character, yeah. Anyway, so what were you going to say, Joe?
I just said this is all one take for Mikhail. We just turned the cameras on and let him go nuts.
There was all the stuff he's saying is not in the script. He just started shouting.
The biggest
really
concern was his butt crack showing, because Joel's butt crack is between his shoulder blades. And so we all were so afraid every time he bent over that he was going to be
I remember
obscene.
This being really hard to edit. I can't remember why. It's like there's 3 takes of him tearing the room apart, and we wanted to create a certain feel. I can't remember why it's so hard to edit, and it just goes by in 3 seconds. This part I was really nervous about because I was worried it would feel clammy, like Married with Children style. Like, whenever anyone's disrobing, whenever Joel's walking in showing off his legs or his pecs or Annie's dressed sexy, I am always guarding against that creepy feeling of like, well, yeah, that's what you like, America. We'll just have him walk in. She's dressed like a leopard, so you go woo, and then we've got good TV. It's hard to unring that bell. It breaks the fourth wall more than anything that I ever do. But it worked, I think. I think they're mad. I think maybe they're hot for each other, too.
Chevy, hilarious. That
Chevy
little
helps
Chevy
sell the
bit.
joke.
Yeah. Cutting to Chevy taking off his shirt. It made you certain that we weren't vending just Married with Children Applegate shtick.
This is where the Shirley and Yvette thing converges, because when I heard we'd be naked, I was like, we were going to be. I was like, what?
Yeah, I remember assuring you. No, it's gonna be like a Little Rascals thing where your heads are just like popping over the top.
And I think it's really funny how
somebody asked on Twitter about the, what was the plan with the Britta and Jeff hooking up story? Yes, we decided that Gwynnifer is Jeff's code name for Britta.
Really?
In the beginning, it's also named after one of my nemesis on Twitter for first season, who was always calling me out on being racist and fat. But so Jeff's using it. It's a ridiculous name. It sounds made up, and so we had decided that actually he's not calling anyone on that phone. He had a date with Britta, and he's letting her know date's off. And Britta is making a comment there about his underwear. She there is no Gwynnifer. She knows that too. So they were hooking up in my mind since the Space Bus episode. I think that they are somewhere around. Wait, didn't we realize exactly where they hooked up?
I thought we'd said Space Bus too, that it was around Space Bus. But the funny thing about this is I had to write. There was like a joke. Troy says, those underwear look luxurious, and Jeff has a response, and just to make sure that the joke would make sense, I went to the wardrobe woman and asked what underwear is Joel going to be wearing, and she didn't know because apparently he like picks his own underwear. And how dare he? And so she says to me, a new writer on the show who has literally just met Joel the day before and was a huge fan last season, so like I know Joel for the soup and everything. She was like, just go ask him. So I had to wander up to Joel and be like, hey, so what underwear are you going to wear? I have to know for job reasons. And we had an interesting conversation about that. He's very particular.
Yeah, he is about his clothes.
It's a very brave scene for Danny Pudi.
Danny looks nice in his undies.
He looks great.
I thought his shake is my favorite shake.
Oh yeah, you kind of just
his little like.
Look at these guys. This is
Beefcake Factory.
I love that
we have such an inverted double standard on our set. Like, the guys are obsessed with their bodies. They want to show them off. This looks like a Benetton ad. The girls are all. Yvette won't take. Doesn't want to show her arms.
You notice how quickly you were dressed.
I was like, I'm still gonna get this sweater on.
He kept asking me when you could put your clothes back on.
I sure was.
Yeah, and Allison was like, I don't need to even have a bra. Like I can just do it topless. And we were like, no, it's okay. You can put a bra on.
I'm sure it's in the dailies. See the commentary for the upcoming Paintball episode where we talk about Joe's coverage of her boobs.
So people did ask on Twitter about these endings, both the ghost ending and Annie's boobs, the monkey coming out, and how we came about them. I remember this ghost one came up in the breaking of the room that we kept trying to figure out the reason that would get them all out of the room, and we sort of. I always had the idea that they were never going to find the pen, but I don't remember who said, or we started talking about what if they just believed that because Troy had mentioned ghosts. What if they just say ghosts?
Right.
And I immediately loved that idea, just because it was great to me that the same thing that keeps them in the room is what gets them out. Their love for each other.
Right.
The arc of this story is really nice to me because it's. Yeah, them all just agreeing, and they're all, and I believe it. Like when I got to this part of writing, I really believed that these people would nod and smile and walk out of the room together. It seems like it makes sense.
Well, because that's what a community is, a social contract. It's a decision you make, a leap of faith that you make with other people, where you go, we have to assume the best about each other, or because if we start to blink, we'll all turn into animals. And so that's what all of these episodes are about. Like how do you maintain that in a modern world when we're constantly told that we are animals? Like how do you rise above that and be a tribe of humans? And this is one of the answers. You do it through faith in each other. It doesn't matter what your religion is or what your philosophy is. You can choose to just have faith in a shared mythology. And I just thought this is the best. The Jim Rash's reaction to being told that
He's non-miraculous.
he's
Jim Rash is great.
And so I'm on set with Joe. Originally, the plan was they do the ghost thing, and then they walk out, and the door slams, and a piece of paper falls, and it hits a pen, and the pen rolls, and an apple rolls into a fan, and the fan blows, or whatever. You know, this Rube Goldberg thing that causes another pen or something to fly up into an air conditioning vent or something. The implication being, like, there's not ghosts, but there is chaos, there is random stuff. But then I'm on the set with Joe trying to organize that, and I'm like, there was this monkey idea. Like, let's bring Annie's boobs back from the first season. And Joe talked me, and he's like, I just needed to hear him say it wasn't too inside. What I realized on set is it doesn't have to be inside. If you just think that there's a fucking monkey, if you've never seen the show before, it's just a monkey.
And we knew we needed the star of Hangover 2 to help
Is that the
promote
same monkey? It's the same
It is the same
That monkey was amazing. The monkey grab at the beginning
One
he
take.
grabs.
those 2 takes of that
Was it
monkey
2
coming out
takes?
of the vent.
You can actually see him taking the pen. It's kind of amazing.
I
if
missed
you-
that and the guy working the remote control the first time around.
That monkey's a 2-taker, which is
Yeah.
more than we can say for.
I remember when Chevy was so bummed out. He was so jealous. He was skulking around. That
We were
monkey
both-
was being carried out on
We were
people's
both
shoulders.
racing for that low-hanging fruit with Chevy, Chevy versus the monkey joke.
Well, I thought you were stopping short. I was like, I'll do it for you, Joe. You're worried about it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.